All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marianne Hyland. I'm the Dean of the Robert B. Willemstad School of Business here at Adelphi University. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's Don Center seminar. Our topic today is AI in the workforce. And I have to say, I was just at a conference that's sponsored by our business schools accreditor, that's called the AACSB. And the topic of the conference that everyone was talking about in sessions, at networking breaks, it was all about AI. So I am delighted to see that the Don Center is focusing on this important topic, and I'm really thankful to our speakers for taking the time to share their insights on this topic. The session will be moderated by our very own Professor Yue Han, and our panelists are Barry Newman, Michael O'Donnell, and Shubhi Asthana. Now, Václav Bartseviska will introduce our moderator and our panelists. Václav is a senior who's a finance student here at Adelphi. He's been on the dean's list for multiple semesters, and he is a dedicated student athlete and part of our Willemstad Leadership Scholars Program. So I turn it over to you, Václav.
Thank you, Dean Hyland. Hello, everyone. I'm Václav, and it's my pleasure to introduce today's panelist and moderator. Today's moderator is Yu Han. She is an associate professor of decision sciences and marketing at Adelphi University. Her research focuses on crowdsourcing, knowledge reuse, and information diffusion in social media. She holds a BS in engineering management from Central University of Finance and Economics. She also holds an MS in project management and a PhD in business administration, both from Stevens Institute of Technology. Our first panelist is Barry Newman, Chief Technology Officer at Fragrance.com. He has over 30 years of experience in technology, including the Director of E-commerce for 1800flowers.com and leadership roles in the retail and healthcare sectors. After founding an e-commerce company in the gifting industry, he moved into consulting as a fractional CTO before joining Fragrance.com as CTO. He earned a Bachelor of Science in MIS and Marketing at the University of Albany. Next, Michael O'Donnell is an assistant clinical professor at Adelphi University. After holding analytics roles at large corporations, Michael joined CB4 as a data scientist and contributed to CB4's successful acquisition by GAP. He then transitions to academia at Adelphi University. He holds a BA in mathematics from University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and an MS in data science from CUNY School of Professional Studies. Our next panelist is Shubhi Asthana. Shubhi is currently a senior research software engineer at IBM AI Maiden Research Center. In her current role, she specializes in AI and machine learning solutions for privacy-preserving technologies. She holds a BE in electronics and telecommunication from Pune Institute of Computer Technology and an MS in electrical and computer engineering from North Carolina State University. Now I turn it over to you, Professor Han.
Thank you, Václav. Thank you for the introduction. We are very fortunate to have a great team of panelists who can share their insights on AI in the workforce. So before we start our discussion today, I would like to remind the audience that the panels are speaking as industry experts and they're not representing their current employers. And I also want to let everybody know that we will have the Q&A session in the last 15 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, you can leave a comment in the chat box or raise your hand for questions towards the end. Having said that, let's get started. So the first question I have for our panels are, would you please introduce yourself and your role in your organization? So I'm going to go with the sequence on my screen. Michael, would you like to introduce yourself first? Thank you.
Sure, no problem. So yeah, my name is Michael O'Donnell. I'm a clinical assistant professor here at Adelphi. I've been working at Adelphi for a year now, and I teach decision sciences courses with a focus on business analytics. So many of the analytics courses in the master's program. Those courses, even prior to generative AI, have had a lot of AI components. So things like machine learning and natural language processing. And in addition to teaching, the clinical part of my role is to all about staying current and connected to the analytics and data science industry. which obviously AI has been pushing along at a rapid speed. So it's always top of mind and try to keep up with all the trends. In saying that, I try to continue trying any tool and the quickly even tweak some intelligence into analytics. And yeah, I came from about 10 years in analytics and data science roles, both from Fortune 500 companies all the way down to startups. And I also am a member and enjoy participating in the AI task force here in the Wilhelmstad School of Business, where we discuss how AI can be integrated into academia in our School of Business.
Thank you, Michael. And Shubi, would you like to introduce yourself the next, please? Thank you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Shubhi Asthana. I work as a senior research software engineer at IBM Research. My focus is on AI and privacy, especially designing guardrails that make our AI systems more secure. Lately, my work has been on IBM Granite, which is IBM's large language model. And we look at how well our large language models are performing for different use cases, and then we want to make sure we align with the global AI agents and also protect user privacy. So I'm contributing to research on debugging of large language models, on AI safety, and also how businesses can leverage AI effectively while mitigating risks. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Shubi. And next, Barry.
All right, thank you for having me. My name is Barry Newman. I'm the CTO for Fragrance.com, a local Long Island company. We're a B2C e-commerce platform for perfumes, skincare, hair care, colognes, things like that. I've been a CTO for Fragrance only about 6 months, but before then, I've been CTO, CIO for various companies in the e-commerce space from New York to Florida. And as Fragrancenet.com CTO, I oversee the teams that manage the website, the mobile apps, the ERP systems, and the warehouse systems, and our buying platform. And it's my job to make sure the technical strategy is in line with the business, ensure that we're architecting for the future, and that we're driving innovation to solve business problems. And as the CTO, always looking for the latest technologies, myself and my team, to make our teams work more efficient so that we can focus on more innovative work rather than the day-to-day mundane work. And that involves looking at new technologies such as AI and how to best integrate them into our processes and systems. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Personally, I'm also very excited to hear from you because when I first came to the US, my first fragrance was actually bought from fragrance.com. Nice to have you here. And the next question for everyone is, so we hear people talking about AI and how AI has been used at work a lot in recent years, especially the past like 2 or 3 years. The question for you is, how has AI transformed the business world, or specifically in your industry in recent years? And what are some of the most impactful AI-driven innovations you've seen? We will start from Michael again, and then we'll go to Shubi, and then next, Barry. Thank you.
Sure. So I'll kind of break that question into 2 parts. Yeah, how's it affected business in the ways I've seen it, and what are some of the most impactful AI innovations? And I'll actually keep my my answer very specific, but I joined a company called CB4 in 2019, and we were marketed ourselves as an AI company. The company was actually founded on a AI algorithm that was developed by some PhD students. They realized they had something, and they turned it into a company. From 2019, 2020, 2021, we always, even though we had so many people there that were highly credentialed, and we had a solution that, could, or a service that can make other companies money, and we had plenty of clients, we always struggled to get funding. And in the startup world, you kind of start as a J curve, so you're unprofitable at first, and you're hoping that eventually you're profitable and in time for, to go public or be acquired or whatever your exit strategy is. But at that time, 2019, 2020, all the New York City-based startup venture capital money was going towards fintech, definitely with companies like Betterment and Lemonade and Stash. Healthcare, there was a lot of healthcare startups in New York that were getting venture capital money. There was a lot of almost like ZocDoc and those competitors. And then there were also real estate startups in New York. So there was a lot of property management companies like there was one called Lex that was very popular at the time. And now when I see all of my peers in the New York City startup environment, all the money is pouring into the AI startups. And I think one interesting resource that I tune into often that you can see this in the local area is called Built in NYC, and they follow all the startups in the community. And so much of their news in the last 2 years has been about all the money kind of going into AI-based startups. So much so that even some companies have pivoted to brand themselves as AI, even though they really are doing more of fintech or real estate or whatever else they're doing. So I would say that's one way that I've seen the business world change. And a short tip for students on here is if you are interested in joining a startup, following the trends of where the venture capital money is going is definitely helpful because it will give you a little bit more opportunity for career growth and job security in those places. To answer some of the more impactful AI innovations I've seen, the biggest one I've seen is in text analytics. So previously, if you wanted to do any kind of processing of the text data that your company was sitting on, you needed quite a few NLP experts, which tend to be very expensive. And they didn't even necessarily need to create anything groundbreaking, but just finding a few topics from your product reviews or your social media comments or your employee feedback was really valuable, and pulling out keywords and sentiment and things like that. Today, because of all the new AI tools around text analytics, we have really powerful tools at our fingertips. So it takes less people to, if you think about Amazon and many other sites now being able to summarize reviews for you, you can very quickly find your online brand sentiment if you're a company and you release a new product. And you'll see so many new different companies now use conversational chatbots that actually have the power to have a conversation with the user, which used to be very expensive and challenging to set up. So that's been the biggest innovation I've seen, is being able to leverage natural language processing, not just for things like generative AI, but all the other ways that companies can leverage their text data to make data-driven decisions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, should be all yours.
Yeah, so I agree with Michael's that indeed the way AI has transformed the business world, definitely it has touched text analytics, and it has helped to automate some of the decision making or personalizing content for the specific users. So I think it has been a biggest shift in personalization and also in the natural language processing with the AI powered chatbots and the virtual assistants that have come in. One of the things that I think IBM has focused on in recently and is working on is on the IBM Granite large language model, where we want to transform what is the content, how are we doing content creation, how can we help the developer community by accelerating the coding, and also help in product design. So I think the way the business world is looking at AI is that can it provide tailored product suggestions, or can it change how the businesses are interacting with customers and improve the efficiency and response time? That's I feel where AI is making an impact. And this year I felt like the way we are moving with AI is focusing on agentic AI in the large language models. So agentic AI, a layman, definition is like, how are we an agent which can take any large language model? So it's mostly, it can be model agnostic, but it's helping to make decisions, it's helping to plan actions, and then it's helping to execute those with minimal human intervention. And the agents are, process are developed in a way that they can process information, interact with users, and then adapt dynamically to achieve those specific goals that the users are requesting for. And I think that's where the businesses are transforming themselves, and now I think the focus is more on, can the workers work more efficiently with the help of AI, and work together with that.
I think that's a perfect segue, should be into what I'm seeing in terms of the industry side of it, right? So I'm on the practical side, the implementation side. And although I have a technical background, I also work very closely with the business and I see what's happening there. And if I look at what's happening, it's all about making people more productive in the workspace, right? It's about doing more with less or more with the same. And if you look at the different implementations that I'm seeing in the industry, from simplest to most complex, right? So on the marketing side, very easy to write product copy nowadays, right? You put the prompt into a chat GPT and you say, I have a t-shirt for a website. It's got this logo on it. It's made of this material. Give me product copy that will excite people and get them to the website, right? That's what everyone's doing right now with chat GPT. If you want to extend that a little bit more to a little more complex, we can upload large data sets of product information, right? And ask ChatGPT or some AI model to categorize each of those products, to give me taxonomy, right? So now on the website, I can say I have fragrances, men's, this scent. All of that can automatically be done just based on a large data set, or it can analyze data and show me patterns in the data, right? That's a little more complex, but a lot of that is done truly without any development. And then you have the image manipulation, right? Very easy right now for our creative teams to do more with a lot less workers. So they can take an image, they can remove the background, they can change the background, they can add drop shadows to our images, right? Without having to do that all manually on Adobe Photoshop. That's been a game changer. And with the number of products we have, that really allows us to be more efficient. And all of that, like I said, is done without any development. And then you get to more complex sides. So we have developers in-house that use Claude to actually write code for them. And we have no problem with that, right? It gets them 80, 90% of the way there. And then there's still that 10% that they have to tweak and make it fit into our environment. But our developers are able to spit out a lot more code so we can provide a lot more value to the business. We've also created our own LLM for forecasting sales, right? So we take all of our sales data from the previous year, we run through a model, and we know how often we're going to sell, when we're going to sell out. That helps us maximize when we're ordering. So there's been a lot of huge advancement in the e-commerce space that are only making our jobs easier and making the business more efficient.
Thank you, Barry, and thank you, Michael and Shubi. So I think a general theme that from your answer is that you mentioned that the use of AI currently is more to help companies improve their efficiency, and it's really trying to make people become more productive. Then the next question we have is, given the increasing use of AI, what skills do you think professionals should develop to stay competitive? And also, which skills are becoming more critical as AI takes on more tasks? And the other question is, like, I always hear people asking, is AI going to take our jobs away? Are we going to be replaced by AI? So what advice do you have for those who fear job replacement due to AI? Thank you. And this time we will go with Shubi, Michael, and then Barry. Thank you.
Sure. So I think as the AI adoption is growing, there, as Barry said, there is still a demand for some skills. In first is like, uh, understanding what the AI is handling. The AI is doing most of the routine work. So we need skills where people can analyze what are the out responses from those AI, or what are the analytical insights that are coming in, and then make important decisions on that. So one is like to categorize, is this the right information that I'm seeing, um, or am I or it could be that the model is hallucinating, and just providing information which is not accurate enough. It's very important to think critically. I think it's also important to understand how the AI, the agentic models, or how the any of the use cases of AI are adapting to themselves. So you don't need to be a programmer for this. You need to just know how the AI is working, what its strengths and its limitations are. For example, if you're using an enterprise AI model, but that's very focused on financial use cases, then its limitations are to providing financial responses which are tailored to the data set that it has been trained on. And so understanding that is, I think, very important. And then I feel one thing where AI is really lacking is the creativity, or providing the emotional intelligence and what is the cross disciplinary thinking that is required. So if we want to be more productive, and also still be relevant to the companies and to the organization, is I think the business should know what is the right AI technology to use, and then translate that AI work into actual business decisions, or into actual work that into actual spreadsheets or documents that can be used for to provide that kind of impact. And then embrace that learning of AI, experiment with the different tools that we have, and keep upskilling ourselves so that we are where we know what is relevant right now. Because I feel like the the tools and models, the rate at which we are open sourcing them is very high. There's almost every week some new announcement coming in. So embracing that learning and dabbling with those tools are very important.
Thank you, Shubi. Just a quick follow-up question on that. So a lot of our students are currently learning coding and to do business analytics and etc. So you mentioned that now one of the focus of AI is to help accelerate the coding of software engineers. Do you still see that there is a big need for students to understand how coding works and then learning how to code?
Yeah, I think technical knowledge cannot be replaced that easily. So, I mean, the AI can still provide short functions. Hey, replace the string values, or format this data into this date time format or this format, etc. But you still need an analytical thinking and an algorithms person who can say how should the algorithm be determined, and also be able to spot errors in the code, because we're still training the models and seeing a lot of errors come out there. So we still need that the base technical skills to be there.
Thank you so much. I think this ties back to when you were saying it's more than to know what AI should be used for certain use cases. So same thing, only when you know how to code, you'll be able to know how to modify the code generated by large language modeling or other resources, and then use it for your own use case.
Right.
Thank you very much. And Michael?
Yeah, and I definitely agree with so many of Shubi's points. I think I'm going to use a lot of my answer here, but I think that's an interesting question, because it's probably the biggest topic of conversation among my peers professionally, and even down to everything with, having dinner with friends. It's always how can people future-proof themselves, or what skills do they need to develop in a world where there's AI news coming out, weekly, bi-weekly, that is changing industries. And how I think about this is, I think to focus on two main points is depth in your context area and then business acumen. So I'll tie this to a personal example with being an analyst and writing supervised machine learning models. So trying to do forecasting, basically. You're taking historical data, like Barry was explaining, at Fragrance, and you're trying to make some future projections that could be for sales or inventory or anything else. In the past, you needed a lot of coding expertise, like you had to know the syntax of just how to write code. You have to be technically pretty savvy, and you have to be able to use quite a few different tools to gather and clean the data, and using APIs and connecting to an FTP and connecting to the database and all those things. With AI, it gets you a lot of the way there with less coding experience, less tools you need, and less of that technical savviness, which means that there's just far more people that can build models that don't have a lot of depth. So kind of like, what's the differentiator? And I think if you really have the depth of your context knowledge, and this doesn't have to be just about being an analyst, but it can be in marketing or accounting or any other field. If you really understand your content, you can modify it, you can personalize it. And even if, let's say, going back to the forecasting example, one analyst makes a forecasting model and another just gets one from ChatGPT. There's also really something valuable to being able to, if you have the depth of what you built, being able to present it, let's say, to company executives in an understandable way and a meaningful way. So I think that depth is really important. And then kind of to tie that into the business acumen, if you're building let's say I'm working for a fashion retailer, and if I have the business acumen to know, yeah, when I'm making this model, there's going to be a large holiday surge. We just implemented a new markdown structure for end-of-life products. I understand in my business what elasticity means and how price changes will affect customer behavior.
Is it just me or did we? Okay.
I lost the audio. I wasn't sure if it was me or not. Okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Are you able to hear me again?
Yes.
All right. I'll try to pick up where I lost it, but yeah, there's a lot of business acumen that you may know about that you can bake into whatever solution that you're making. So I think knowing your business is always going to be really important, and businesses are always going to be changing and be highly nuanced. So I think that's going to be an important skill. So yeah, I guess I'll just lastly say, like, if I feel a lot of people have fear of job displacement or replacement, but my advice would be, get to use these AI tools, as you were saying, learn how to use them well, and get comfortable being adaptable, because like we said, a lot of these things come out quickly and we'll have to be adaptable as they come out.
All right. Thank you, Michael. So I'm going to answer these questions in backwards order and address the replaceable portion first by telling a quick story. We implemented robots in our warehouses. And one of the fears was exactly that. Well, the robot's going to replace the workers that are picking the products and shipping them out. After implementation, we had people come up to us and say, thank you for getting the robots. Like, we didn't fire anybody, but it made their job easier. We have 50,000 square foot warehouses. So you can imagine the amount of walking needed to do to pick up products. Now our robots go to certain aisles. We have workers standing in the aisles, and they just put the products around the robot, and the robot walks off with it. So we didn't replace it. We didn't replace anybody. We were able to do more with the same amount of staff at a cheaper cost with the robots. So that's really what it's about. It's about working smarter, not harder, right? And that's what AI does for you. In terms of the skill, I'd say the number one, and both Michael and Shubi alluded to it, but they didn't use the word. The number one skill I would recommend, I tell my kids all the time, is prompt writing, right? That's really what it comes down to. The output is only as good as the input that you have into whatever AI tool you're using. And you've seen, maybe on TikTok, oh, I've got this prompt that's 2 pages long, and it's as a user doing this, looking at this, I want this output. You can get really detailed, and the more detailed you get, the better output you get. So to me, that's a skill that is evolving in the workplace, and the more people that learn that skill, that will set them apart in the future. It's not to be afraid of AI, but to show that you're embracing AI, you're embracing change, as Michael said, and that will help set you apart from people. And so what skills should they develop? Should people develop? One is a good understanding of what AI is and what AI isn't, right? It's not just an algorithm. In the old days, as Michael mentioned, you'd have to code something. It was more if statements. You might have think that as natural language processing. It was really just coding, right? It didn't learn, it didn't adapt. But AI actually does learn now, and it makes mistakes. Also understanding the difference between AI and an LLM, right? The LLM is the back end of the AI model. And if it's a finance data set, you're only looking at finance data. If it's larger, then you have a lot more data to do. So understanding when you're talking to people about AI versus LLM, I think that's important. Be familiar with the major players. It's not just ChatGPT is like the brand name, right? Everyone knows ChatGPT, but really there's Google Gemini. There's all different models. And also, a lot of these companies are built on top of those models. So you might think like Flare.ai that does image manipulation, right? That's probably built on an existing model that you don't even realize. And finally, I'd say, don't be afraid to experiment, right? Whether it's AI, whether it's any development language, it's always good to have a problem that you want to solve and then find a way to implement that problem. You can learn ChatGPT, you can type prompts, but if you don't have a real problem to solve, you're really not getting anywhere with it. So find a problem in a business world, in your own personal life, and see how ChatGPT can solve that problem. I had to create a wedding speech, for my girlfriend's son, or identify songs for the wedding for his first dance. And it came up with really great responses, right? Those are problems we wanted to solve. And it was fun to do as well. And then, finally, just don't believe the hype you see on TikTok, right? On TikTok, you see people, I can make $10,000 a month doing an automated ChatGPT workflow. There's a lot more to it. And all these platforms say there's no code platforms. I laugh at that because there's always code. As Shubi mentioned, you're always going to need that technical side of it. There's a lot more than just writing a Tetris app with no code by a prompt. There's a lot more involved in really securing an application, and that skill set will always be in demand.
Thank you so much, Barry. Yeah, it sounds like in the future there will be a lot of jobs where it serves more like a manager, where we'll be managing like the AI tools and also the robots, and we'll be doing what Shubi has mentioned that AI is lacking, which is creativity. So as human, we will be doing work that is like wasting time, kind of like wasting time, like doing research or generate creative things and etc. Thank you all for letting us know like how our students can kind of prepare their skill sets to embrace AI in the future. And Barry, I'll have to keep you on the stage for a little longer. The next question is to you. So what are the key considerations for incorporating AI into a company's strategy, particularly in e-commerce? Thank you.
So for us specifically, it's about security and privacy. And I think Shubi mentioned that, she's working on that on the privacy side of it. A lot of the cloud-based AI tools share data. They're not private clouds, so you have to be really cognizant of what you're putting in there when you use those models. We would never upload customer information to the cloud to do analysis of that, right? We would bring an LLM in-house to do that. Our pricing data, we would not put that in the cloud, right? Don't know where that would be used, who would get access to that. If there was ever a breach, you could be liable for a lawsuit. So to me, it's about security and privacy. And I think a lot of companies have different levels of maturity when it comes to that. So it's really important to bring that to the table. If you're going to a company, they might not be thinking about it, and they may not care. But if you bring that up, as someone talking about AI, it'll show that you're really invested and you understand the implications around AI. The other thing I would say is be realistic about your goals. Know what AI can and can't do. Kind of a try before you buy approach. I always like to do proof of concepts. I would never blindly use AI to translate from English to another language, right? Who knows what it's going to spit out? It's like I said, it's 90% of the way there, but you need someone at least to proofread it before you do that. I would never have a chatbot that is an open AI model where it can ask anything, in more of a confined, restricted space to what we want it to do. Maybe I upload PDF documents of all our manuals, right? And then you can ask questions to it. Hey, what kind of saw, or what kind of material can I drill with this, right? That's really important to know the limitations of AI, that it can make mistakes. So just be aware of that as you go.
Thank you very much, Barry. It sounds like the privacy of the usage of AI, and also like making sure that the AI is only providing authorized, like within like a constrained, confined restriction is very important. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And the next question is directed to Michael. So can you talk about your work at CB4 and how AI was used to drive better decision making for retailers? Thank you.
Sure. I'll try to highlight two interesting examples of AI being used at CB4. And I think it also goes to what Barry's alluded to, where AI is it's so much more than just what you can get back from a generative AI model. AI is anytime you train a computer to think or reason like a human. So things like pattern recognition or classification are all examples of things that AI has allowed us to do so much more efficiently now. I guess just a quick background on CB4, which was a AI startup. It worked for retailers, and generally what the solution did is if you have many products at many stores, so let's say you're a grocery chain and you have 50 grocery stores, and each of those grocery stores have about 25 to 3,000 SKUs. So a SKU is product, style, color. So you have that in each one of the stores. What CB4's main solution was, it could say like, hey, store number 10, you are selling Tostitos chips at a high volume, you're selling Chobani yogurt at a low volume, and you're selling Oreos at a high volume. But your specific store is doing those first two things, but the third thing is not being met. So you're not selling the Oreos. Why don't you go ahead and take a look at those Oreos? 50% of the time, there was an operational issue. So it was out of stock, or there was a price tag missing, or there was something obstructing it. Where the team I worked on came in was, so we're getting a lot of feedback from the stores about those operational issues, what they did about it. They can put in some free text, and we were able to build AI solutions on top of that. So we're getting all that text data. We were able to find, sorting through that text data with AI natural language processing tools, hey, in specific convenience stores, if you remember in 2021-ish, playing cards made a huge resurgence and they were very popular. We could just find out from text from the employees which stores were having the most shrink issues, which stores were having the most products walk out of the store without being paid for playing cards. And we went to those stores and said, hey, we have a data-driven decision in a convenience store for stores number 3, 13, and 16. Put the playing cards behind the register. And they were still able to drive sales, and they lost that shrink issue. So that was from text data. And then another neat one we identified, putting an AI model on top of the feedback, was we found that if you're ever in a grocery store and you see in some of the aisles, there's what's called swing arms. So there's products that come off the shelf and they're kind of in front of some other products, and they might be tangential to the products they're sitting next to. We identified that actually a lot of the products behind those swing arms are losing a significant amount of sales. And those swing arms aren't scientifically placed. They're kind of up to the employee where they put them. So we actually convinced quite a few grocery stores to take those down or move them in certain stores that had high price items behind them, knowing that it would drive sales overall. So those were all AI-driven things you wouldn't be able to identify at a high level with something like business intelligence, but with AI solutions, you can identify high-value opportunities for retailers.
Thank you so much, Michael. And Shubi, we also have a question for you. So how are AI agents transforming workflows, and how does your work on prompt template frameworks and the React agent frameworks contribute to making them more efficient and reliable? Thank you.
Sure. So, when it came to AI agents, we saw that the use cases were quite varied. They wanted to, automate some of the complex decision making decisions, streamlining operations, just like the example Michael gave, and then handling tasks that traditionally required some human intervention. And so when it came to the businesses handling workflows, we realized that there's a lot of emphasis on getting the customer support or doing some kind of financial modeling, or doing supply chain optimization, as we just heard. What I'm working on right now is looking at how the structured prompt template frameworks should look like. It's not just us. Everybody is now working on different structured prompts. Like there's a React agent framework, which is reasoning plus action. It looks at what is the reason behind a certain action and how should the system behave and make the decision making for it. And these templates require a lot of consistency and reliability on the AI responses. So we want to reduce the hallucinations, and so that the interactions with the AI or the large language model are more predictable. So what the React framework looked like was that it was allowing the AI agents to plan, how the system would behave, and then execute the tasks iteratively, and basically like even breaking down some of the complex prompts into smaller prompts and then executing them. And if it requires additional context or additional information, then it would utilize that too. So my work in this space has been like focused on improving the AI agents reliability, by having these structured prompt templates, so that they can make more context aware decisions, and they can operate within the expectations of the users here, and in this case the businesses here. And this is very critical for the our businesses, because there are high stakes applications, and more clients are adding in their own data, which is data as RAG data to it. Then they would want to be able to provide structured prompts so that they can get those expected reasoned outputs out. And I think also within this, since I work on privacy and safety too, we realized that the large language models had been trained on a lot of web crawl data. And so there was a lot of personal information that was going in there. So we want the AI agents to be giving structured prompt responses, but we also want that if there's any bias in the information or there are any safety or sensitive data in the information, then we do not want to have that leaked out. And that's why the guardrails are very important for the AI agent frameworks. Yeah.
Thank you, Shubi. It sounds like these type of prompt template are actually trying to prepare AI to be ready for kind of like a massive usage and potential like future customization for like individual companies and etc. Is that where this is heading towards?
Yes, and one extension of that, which is going on right now, is using tool calling functions. So tool calling functions are basically like, I'm not asking the large language model or the AI model to give me an answer like what is the weather of San Jose. I want you to go to weather.com, find the weather of San Jose, and provide that to me. So tool calling functions are an extension to AI agents, where we say determine what are the functions, what are the possible functions that the system is more familiar or akin with, and is able to utilize those functions as context and provide the results to it. That helps to streamline the AI responses to only those limited tool calling functions that the user has more confidence in. And it also, reduces hallucinations. And if the AI doesn't know the answer, or the tool calling function doesn't know the answer, the AI doesn't try to make it up. It provides you what it knows. So yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me of what Barry was also mentioning regarding like when we are using the AI, we need to think about confining the restrictions and then like making sure that the AI is answering within like the certain scope of the business. Yeah. Thank you all very much. We really wish we have more time to ask you more questions because this is such an interesting topic, but we only have like 15 minutes left, and I will open the floor for questions from the audience. If you have a question, you can either raise your hand or like leave a comment in the chat box. I don't see any hands yet. So while waiting for our audience to type in their question, let me double check. Do we have anybody raising hand? Yes. Leslie, I see that you raised your hand. All yours.
Oh, hi. So I just had a quick question. In your guys' opinion, which industry, I know you guys said to not be afraid of like AI replacing us, but in your opinion, which industry do you think is going to go first?
So I mean, I'll go. It's a tough one on that side of it. You know, if you look where I've seen replacements has really been on the automation of tasks, not about knowledge, like robots in certain locations as they get more sophisticated. But there's still people behind that, and that's where I always say, it's not the jobs go away, the jobs will shift. In terms of the corporate world, where there's people there, I don't think you're ever going to have a company that's run entirely by AI people, right? So in the corporate world, I think it's relatively safe, but it'll shift. In the manual labor world, in my opinion only, that's where I see, a lot of advancing. You look at McDonald's, right? Automating the taking of the orders and the handling of the orders, that side of things, because it's cheaper for the companies. That's just, again, my view and my opinion.
Um, I think I sort of agree to Barry too. I think another extension is that AI-driven chatbots and virtual assistants are doing really well. They are able to, grasp the the situation and are able to provide some kind of some level of responses, and they do have some level of emotional intelligence too. So I think that's one of the areas where I think AI is the technology is speeding up really well. And another technology area I think I would say is that, where we have analytical driven insights. If I have some inventory, sales inventory, and I want to get insights on how we are doing, AI is able to provide that information, predictions and forecasts, so with some level of accuracy. So I think uh, that's where a lot of AI, the new research work in AI is also heading. Yeah.
I'll just add on to, Barry mentioned a lot of things are task oriented, and Shubi has talked about agentic AI quite a few times. One area that I kind of saw the combination of those that I'm noticing some peers feel a change in one industry is in marketing. So I think a lot of the customer relationship management tools like your Salesforce is becoming a little bit more agentic, and some of the repetitive tasks are being automated. But I don't have a strong sense of which industry is going to go most automated first. But I have noticed that example in marketing.
Thank you very much. And the next question we have is in the chat. So Malcolm asked about, do you see a difference in the acceptance of AI from a generational standpoint?
I can give a very high level answer to it. I feel like the younger generation is definitely more accepting the different applications of AI, and they are more they're utilizing the tools which are friendly and are helpful in getting their daily work done. Well, I feel like perhaps the baby boomers, the older generation, are a little bit more skeptical to trust AI, especially when it comes to confidential information or information that can lead to making big business decisions, then that's possibly a place.
Yeah, I would add to that, do I see my parents using AI? Probably not. But in the corporate world, I think leaders of companies that might not be baby boomers, Gen X, whatever you want to call them, um, they're embracing it because they're running businesses. And again, it's all about efficiency and how to scale a business. So they're not afraid of it. I think if you have workers in the workplace that are older, they might not be embracing it as much because they don't understand how it could help them do their job. But certainly, leadership executives of companies might be older are definitely embracing it.
Hey, one difference I noticed from a generational standpoint is I think that some younger users of AI are using it more are more adapted to the social tools. So like AI on a personal basis. Whereas, I think the Pew Research Center said that 90% of Fortune 500 companies are using generative AI at work. And I think some older generations are more apt to use AI in a professional setting. So I just noticed that dichotomy between social tools versus professional tools. But I do think there's been a pretty large adoption of AI over the last at least year or so, uniform for all ages.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions from the chat yet. Maybe people are still typing. As an audience, I also have a question. So from the business perspective, we see like these big firms, they're really competing in like the leading technology, creating the large language models to do all the AI tasks and etc. What I see is that as small companies, they are hearing the term AI a lot. And we all know that there might be a way where they can incorporate AI into their own business. But the thing is, a lot of times small business owners don't really have the knowledge about where they can start. So I'm curious about what would be your suggestion for like maybe your startups or like a small company about where can they start to incorporate AI into their business? Like how can they customize the usage of AI for their own business? Just curious, because I see a lot of our students are interested in becoming an entrepreneur in the future. That's why I was curious about this question. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, like I said before, it's about having a problem and solving it, number one. So knowing what your problem is and then finding the best tools to solving that problem. And to me, the easiest way if you're starting a company is in the marketing space, as Michael mentioned, right? It's about, copywriting, image manipulation. That's marketing, sending out emails, automation of emails. That whole flow can truly be AI driven. So if you're doing a startup where money matters, right? You can't hire all the staff to do all these jobs. There are companies, AI companies that you could outsource to literally do your marketing without people. Or you can start looking at the tools internally and find someone, fresh out of college that understands AI and how to utilize that for particular companies. So that's really where I see, huge benefits on that side of it for small companies.
Yeah, I have something very similar too in mind. As Barry mentioned multiple times, very important to leverage AI in repetitive tasks. Automating those repetitive tasks, and like bookkeeping and scheduling or the customer support, that can possibly be done by smartly adopting these AI tools. And also you can have, you can collaborate with the AI service providers and maybe use it as a maybe use any of those startups as one of the partners, so that because they would require more data, more client, more use cases to be able to establish their workflows, and what you provide is the hands-on data to them, and then leverage these the AI tools that are there in the market for the marketing and the customer service, so that you do not have that big investment, the heavy investment there. So I think that's where you can build a gap, because ultimately where the small businesses need to target is, what are the client needs are, and how to be creative in providing their solutions or their products to them. So that's the part that humans would have to do themselves.
I'll add one example as well. And just for very small businesses and peers who have joined organizations that are anywhere from 2 to 10 people, things that are just getting off the ground. I noticed that one way to easily implement generative AI meaningfully is training their own GPT. So putting in the whole business plan, all parameters, the finances. Obviously, at this point, doing all of those things, you want to pay for the service you're using to make sure that your data does have some privacy, but helping guide those initial decisions and fill the gaps of the employees you don't yet have. So yeah, I've seen that done a few times now in very early stages, and I think it can help a small business, especially without having to learn highly specific tools, but just using generative AI at least.
Thank you very much. And Xiaoying, I think our guest has probably answered your first set of questions, as it's quite similar to what I was asking. And we will go with Harvey's question and then come back to your question. So we received a question from Harvey regarding healthcare. So how could AI have a better impact on the healthcare field, such as analyzing or making diagnosis from a patient from its in-person image? Meaning that analyzing or detecting diseases from a patient image. This is probably less business focused.
I can give you from the research point of view, because in IBM Research Almaden we have a big team that focuses on AI in healthcare. It's headed by Tanveer Saida, and she's also teaches this in Stanford University as an assistant professor. What I've learned from her research is that the AI is definitely there's a lot of research work going on how one can read images, MRI scans, CT scans, and be able to detect like small fractures or tumors, etc. And while there a lot of clinical trials have been done with them, and there's still doctor intervention required for every diagnosis. Some of the early diagnosis can be done leveraging the AI tools, and I think there are a lot of research workshops focused on this work. I know the latest was there's a NeurIPS, which is a machine learning conference. They have a healthcare data track on this, and they're looking into how they can pool data sets on on these MRI images and CT scans, and how can they build better models to solve these cases. So that's a very, I know, a high level overview of it, but yeah, I think I think AI does have a better impact on healthcare, and researchers are accelerating towards this.
Yes, I agree. Although this is less of a business focused question, but it's actually a very interesting question, because we do see the future usage of AI in the healthcare industry, and I know a lot of startup companies are actually going towards this direction as well. Yes. And Xiaoying, unfortunately, we won't be able to address your question. Maybe we can bring your question offline. We can also discuss with Professor O'Donnell after this meeting. Thank you so much for joining us today, Michael Shubi and also Barry. It's a great honor to have you sharing your thoughts on the AI and also the workplace. Thank you for your insights. And thank you, audience, for joining us today. I want to end today's session with an announcement. So our next Down Center virtual seminar will take place in fall 2025. We hope you join us for that event. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.